All right, good evening. I think we're ready. So, welcome to the class of 2024 top 5%. This is truly one of my most favorite events of the year, and that's saying a lot because I have a lot of events. This one we get to honor tonight. We don't just honor the top 5% of our class, which in and of itself is an amazing group of students. I did a deep dive today. I tried to do a little bit. I had a lot going on, but I did a little data and trying to figure out, to quantify how smart this class is. And the range of GPAs was from 4.93-ish to about 4.72. The average AP classes, that if you average that over the 22 kids, is something like 7.9 AP classes, a couple of CCP classes. I tried to figure out how much money that this class collectively is going to be earning in college credits, and it was a lot. It was quite a lot, actually. It's an amazing honor to be here. But tonight is really special because we're not just honoring the top 5%. We're not just honoring their last 4 years of being the best of Strongsville High School. We're honoring the staff, the teachers that influenced them, that guided them. And one of my favorite parts about this particular is that I get a chance to work with both your amazing children and our amazing teachers every single day. There's a lot of respect for both. And hearing the students offer that same respect is really a thrill for me. So, we're going to start, and for those of you, if you've never been to one of these, the way that it works is I introduce the student, give you a very little bit of information, and then the student will call up the staff member. Staff member, you have to stand here while they talk about you. You can't come up at the last second. So we want to make sure they feel very uncomfortable as we're saying. Because one thing about teachers, really good teachers, they don't like to be given compliments. It's funny because I think that's like every profession. The very best typically are humble. So we want to make them stand up here and hear the wonderful things that are being said about them. So let's start off with our first student, Nathan Baker, who will be attending Kent State University with a major in architecture.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's great that we could all make it here, despite our busy schedules. So first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Kevin Klein, for being my most influential educator for this school year. So, all right, let me start off. So Mr. Klein is one of the most influential people I've ever met. Ever since I started pre-calc honors with him, he has instilled in me a strong work ethic, the confidence to ask questions, and perseverance. Every day in class, he always brought something new to the table, whether it was wearing his pre-selected golf outfits on Tuesday or wearing a funny math t-shirt. His drive to challenge my class and me pushed me to work harder and be more motivated, not just in math class, but also my extracurricular activities and at home. Before having Mr. Klein as my teacher, I was hesitant to ask questions in class. However, he helped me develop a thoughtful and open mind, making me a more responsible person who perseveres. So, I'd like to thank Mr. Klein for making a significant impact on me and helping me change for the better.
Our next student attending The Ohio State University planning on majoring in biology is Miss Kate Brandt.
I am here to also honor Mr. Klein. So, I have always been a very high-strung Of course. So, I have always been a very high-strung person. Going into my junior year of high school, I was overwhelmed with anxiety about the smallest grade, literally anything. I knew Mr. Klein's honors pre-calc class was one of the most challenging math classes offered at the high school, so I was thoroughly stressed out walking in. After receiving a B on the first test, I asked Mr. Klein what I needed to do to earn a better grade in the class, and his response was learning to trust myself more. So it took me a full semester to finally start to adopt this strategy, and gradually my intense anxiety before every test began to ease up. I knew the tests would be difficult, but I began to rely on my knowledge and trust myself a lot more. So since that class, I have been much more confident in my skills, both academically and personally, and to that I have Mr. Klein to thank.
Our next student will be attending the University of Florida with a major in political science pre-law, Ms. Allie Carriott.
I would like to bring out Mrs. Whitaker as my most influential teacher. I've always been an overly anxious person about success inside and outside the classroom, even at a very young age. If anyone knows that, it's Mrs. Whitaker. I had Mrs. Whitaker for 2nd and 3rd grade, and at this point in my life, I was a ball of nerves. At the age of 8, I thought getting lower than an A on a math quiz would be career-ending. But Mrs. Whitaker had a way of putting things into perspective for me. In our small class of only 11 students, she was never overly concerned with traditional academic success, and rather concerned with keeping us interested in what we were learning. She taught me how to use mistakes to grow rather than dwell on them. Her genuine care for each of her students set the standard high for all of my teachers to come. Even when I see her now, almost 10 years later, she still gives me a big hug and asks me how things are going. But most importantly, she taught me that I am more than my grades, which is what pushed me to succeed academically through my years at Strongsville. Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker, for all you've done for me.
Just so you guys know, at the end of this, certainly, I'm not discouraging pictures now. At the end, the table will be up here. You're more than welcome also to come up and get pictures with as many as you want. So we're not going to rush out here, I promise. Our next student, attending Louisiana State University with a major in environmental engineering, is Jessica Castle.
I have chosen Mrs. Hostler for my award. I have had many great teachers throughout my 4 years of being here, but one stood out to me the most. I've chosen to select Mrs. Hostler.
Mrs. Hosser is my calculus teacher. She teaches with so much enthusiasm and brings so much positive light into the classroom. She always finds engaging ways for us to learn higher level math. She's always checking in on everyone, making sure we're understanding everything as we move through the curriculum. Having her as a teacher has taught me that mistakes are okay, and that mistakes are the best ways to learn. She has also taught me to have confidence in myself and by never giving up, anything is possible. She is someone that I would never feel judged by asking questions and know that I can go to her about anything. I have really enjoyed getting to know you on a personal level and appreciate that you took the time to get to know me. It's nice to know that you care not only on the inside of the classroom, but also outside as well. Mrs. Hosser truly demonstrates what it means to be an exceptional educator and someone Strongsville should be proud of. I want to say thank you, and I'll always remember what you've taught me as I carry it on with me on to college. Thank you, Mrs. Hosser. I'm so glad I had you this year, and I'll truly miss not having you as my teacher next year.
Our next student, attending The Ohio State University with a major in computer science and engineering law, is Navya Chauhan.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call up Miss Powell. I am thankful to all my teachers who contributed to my education and gave me access to the resources that eventually led me to becoming part of the top 5%. I'd especially like to single out Miss Powell, who, while I never had in class, played an instrumental role through my educational journey. Through participating in extracurriculars Miss Powell led, and also volunteering under her, I was lucky enough to develop my current interest in history and politics, the knowledge of which I will be taking to Ohio State next year as a pre-law student. Your enthusiasm for government and politics is infectious and sparked my interest. Ms. Powell is incredibly knowledgeable and updated in current events, making every conversation either a learning lesson or a fruitful debate. What set Ms. Powell apart, however, is her genuine care for students. She truly loves educating students, but more than that, she cares about how they do in life. As I stand here today, I know for a fact that I would not be the person I am today without her guidance, and I would like to thank you for not only shaping my academic success, but also the person I'm becoming today. Thank you.
I broke my foot on those stairs. I don't want to do it again.
Our next student, attending Eckerd College with a major in marine science and policy, Margaret Dara.
I would like to recognize Mrs. Buchwald. I remember sitting in student council freshman year, being both amazed and intimidated by all the seniors presenting their ideas on the executive board. I never would have imagined being able to do that with the same confidence and ease they had. This is why I've chosen to recognize Mrs. Buchwald as one of the most influential teachers at Strongsville. Although I only ever had her for one semester as a teacher, she's been my student council advisor for 2 years now. She's not only helped me grow as a leader, preparing me to go to college and run our student council this past year, but also has improved my confidence immensely while having her as my advisor. She listens to my rants about everything under the sun, offers her advice, and has even given me amazing opportunities like the chance to attend our leadership conference in Washington, D.C. this past winter. But most importantly, she also gives me snacks when I stop by her room every day. She is the true role model for an amazing leader at Strongsville High School and has gone above and beyond for her students, especially those in student council. I know she will always be a resource I can count on even after graduation. She truly has been one of the most amazing role models in my educational career that has shaped me in the woman I am today, ready to take on any challenge I might face. Thank you so much, Mrs. Buchwald, for your guidance these past 2 years.
Our next student attending The Ohio State University with a major in computer science and engineering is Caden Esch.
I'd like to start by thanking everyone for coming out tonight. That's just taking your time out of the evening. And I'd also like to recognize Mrs. Powell. Mrs. Powell's dedication to her students extends far beyond regular school hours, exemplified by her willingness to go above and beyond to ensure their success. I distinctly recall how nearing the end of the school year and leading up to the AP test, she made the effort to stay after school multiple times, providing additional support and guidance for us to excel. This personalized attention not only demonstrated her commitment to our academic growth, but also highlighted her belief in the importance of her individualized support. Moreover, Ms. Powell's ability to forge meaningful relationships with her students is truly remarkable. She recognizes her inherent value in cultivating strong relationships, understanding that a supportive and nurturing environment is essential for optimal learning. And in my case, she invested time and effort into getting to know me personally, recognizing my strengths and areas for growth. This approach not only enhanced my experience in her class, but also fostered a deep understanding and appreciation for the material. For example, when she tasked us with creating the treasure map for depicting how the journey of the bill through the government of becoming a law, it transformed an otherwise dry concept into an engaging and memorable learning experience. Through activities like these, Ms. Powell not only imparted knowledge, but also instilled a genuine enthusiasm for learning, ensuring that her students emerged from the class with a wealth of knowledge, taught in an engaging and thought-provoking manner. So thank you so much, Mrs. Powell.
Our next student, attending The Ohio State University with a major in aerospace engineering, Carter Estrella.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to honor Mr. Scott. Of all the educators that I've come into contact with my 12 years of being a student, no single educator has impacted me as much as Mr. Scott. He's not only an incredible math teacher, educating me on my favorite subject for the last 2 years, but he is overall an unmatchable influence. He's funny, smart, and caring all at the same time, always looking after his students. Not only has he influenced me in the classroom, but also outside, being the advisor for Strongsville's academic challenge team, of which I'm the team captain. Him bringing our team together for the practices and competitions, and always supporting us along the way, has proven to me even more that he's the most impactful teacher I've ever had. In every aspect of my schooling, he has been there, encouraging me to do better, whether it be on a math test, at a competition, or even behind the scenes doing many other tasks. He's the one educator that stands above the rest, with his incredible way of teaching, having fun in the classroom, being supportive, and being a genuine teacher that I can look up to. I want to thank Mr. Scott for this growth he's given to me, and I'm glad to have been a student for these past years. Thank you.
Hopefully you all got the chance to see the team compete on TV last week, and they really did us proud. Our next student, attending Bowling Green State University with a major in finance, Ella Graby.
I'd like to recognize Mrs. Brush. In 2017, I was in 5th grade at Chapman Elementary School. 5th grade is the year that everyone starts to prepare for the transition to middle school. In my mathematics class that year, I had Mrs. Brush, formerly known as Mrs. Bacalar. While in her class, she had a group of students sit at the umbrella table where they would complete challenging math problems. As the year progressed, Mrs. Brush decided to include me in this group of students who received these challenging problems. Getting to sit at the umbrella table made me feel a sense of accomplishment in her class and in the subject of mathematics as a whole. During this time, I discovered my love and passion for math. I loved being challenged with difficult problems, and I loved that Mrs. Brush believed that I could complete them. Looking back, I really appreciate that Mrs. Brush began to push me in this subject. My passion for mathematics continued throughout middle school and high school, and still continues to grow now as I plan to major in finance at BGSU. My parents have always told me that it takes a village to raise a child, and I strongly believe that Mrs. Brush played a huge role in my village. She made me into the successful math student I am today. Thank you, Mrs. Brush.
Our next student, attending the Georgia Institute of Technology with a major in neuroscience, Nehal Jatauger. Hold on, try this again. Her and I practiced this beforehand. Jatauger.
I would like to call Mrs. McGrath up here. Writing this speech was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do because there's honestly no words that could describe how incredible Miss McGrath is. Mrs. McGrath has truly been incredible both inside and outside the classroom. She would constantly switch her teaching tactics to make sure that it appealed to all students. When one strategy didn't work, she was always willing to listen to her students and incorporate their feedback in the next lesson. When I had questions, she would willingly give up her free periods to help me better understand. And I had a lot of questions. As we got closer to the AP test, she gave up all her free time to help students answer any concerns. I came into physics expecting it to be hard and undoable. Instead, Mrs. McGrath turned that subject into my favorite class and even inspired me to take the next level course. She simplified the class and made it enjoyable. Through her teaching and kindness, I found a new subject to love. Thank you, Mrs. McGrath, on behalf of everyone you have inspired and continue to influence. You will forever be the person I think of when they ask me who my favorite teacher is.
Our next student, attending Oberlin College with a major in art history and mathematics, Chloe Nance.
I would like to invite Mrs. Selecki down. Art has always been an integral part of my life. I spent last year creating a portfolio and make regular visits to the art museum, and my free time is spent learning about new artists and techniques, and I plan to study art history in college. It has become the thing that grounds me, that allows me to find peace. Without Mrs. Selecki, who was my art teacher when I was at Drake Elementary for 3rd and 4th grade, I would have never developed this passion for art. In 3rd grade, I was at a new school and faced with the task of adjusting to new people and a new building, and the art room became a sanctuary for me. In addition to giving us creative freedom when it came to choosing our subjects, Mrs. Selecki introduced us to new media. I remember working with graphite for the first time in her class to create a drawing of an elephant. We each got to choose our own reference picture, and I just remember how much I enjoyed that project. To this day, graphite is still my favorite medium. In 3rd grade, she took us all on a field trip to the Cleveland Museum of Art, and I've been going back regularly ever since. At Drake, there's a theme and a continent featured every year, and Mrs. Selecki and the music teacher would coordinate their classes around this theme. When I was in 4th grade, the continent was Africa, and Mrs. Selecki had us transform her classroom into a jungle. There were vines hanging from the ceiling, a jaguar was painted on the wall. It was an amazing experience. And even after she was no longer my art teacher, she was kind enough to let me interview her for a school project. She's a phenomenal artist herself, and my parents would take her to see her at local galleries. She showed me the wondrous possibilities of the art world and made it seem achievable to live a life immersed in art. If it had not been for her, I do not even know who I would be. I owe so much to her, and I'm so grateful that I've got to have her as my art teacher. Thank you, Mrs. Selecki.
For those of you who did watch, it makes sense now. If you watched the first part of the show last weekend was about art history, and Chloe pretty much dominated the field in that category. Our next student, who will be attending Case Western Reserve University with a major in engineering, Caden McGrew.
For my teacher, I chose Mrs. Rose. Throughout my years in school, I've raved about how much I love math, physics, science, geography, politics, and history. I've also discovered a love for singing, theater, acting, and performing. As for English and dancing, however, love is not the word I have used to describe those subjects much. Maybe struggle, annoyance, frustration, the overwhelming desire to sometimes give up. In fact, I want to apologize to my friends and family for how much I've often complained about those two subjects. So it might come as a surprise that for my chosen teacher, I picked Mrs. Rose, who is both my English teacher and my choreographer. To illustrate why I chose Mrs. Rose, I'll use her own words that stuck with me so much that I wrote them down. In addressing some cast crew complaining and complacency during Tech Week for our Chicago musical, Mrs. Rose said, "Character means you show up even on a bad day and perform." We were starting to give up, but she made sure we didn't, as she didn't, and kept us improving, and not just in our dancing, but in our attitudes. I chose Mrs. Rose because of her character and how she encourages perseverance and self-improvement in each of her students, and how she has inspired me with those qualities. Even though I often struggle to find the enjoyment in abstract English class discussions and foreign-to-me choreography lessons, through her constant perseverance and encouragement, she pushes us to live up to what she knows we're capable of. And through that challenge, I found satisfaction and enjoyment and love for challenging myself. I appreciate how much she has helped me in both my academics and my art pursuits, and helped me to see how much I can love challenging myself. She, through exposing us to various viewpoints and what she calls brain nutrition, and pushing us to work together in support of a better number and a better show, challenges us and helps us challenge ourselves. For always pushing and encouraging me, for helping me find love in English and dance, and for teaching me more than just choreography and English, thank you, Mrs. Rose.
Our next student, attending the University of Notre Dame with a major in biology, Fritz Micko.
I did. And for my teacher, who is definitely about to just show me up on that jump, I chose Mr. Kevin Klein. Gets better every time. In my sophomore year, I had Mr. Klein for Honors Pre-Calc, known as one of the toughest classes offered at Strongsville High School. Despite starting strong with an A in my first quarter, my confidence took a hit when I received my second B in the following quarter. Scribbled in red on the top of my test was a simple yet impactful message: "Please see me." Sitting across from Mr. Klein, he didn't just point out my slipping grades, he confronted me about my lack of effort, challenging me to rise to the occasion. It was a wake-up call unlike any other. Mr. Klein wasn't content with mediocrity. He demanded excellence. His words ignited a fire within me, propelling me to strive for greatness in every aspect of my academic life. From that moment on, I approached every class with a renewed determination. His unwavering standard of excellence set the bar high, pushing me to exceed past even my own expectations. For that, I'll forever be grateful to Mr. Klein.
Our next student, attending The Ohio State University with a major in aerospace engineering, Sean Nemeth.
the opportunity of having Ms. Mendez as a French teacher. From the moment I walked in her room, she made it a very warm and welcoming environment for us. She made us feel not just like her students, but as people who she genuinely cared for. Over the past 2 years, she's confided in us and opened to us more than any teacher I have previously had, making us feel so much more connected with her. Despite our lack of motivation as we come to the end of the year, she's refused to give up on us and has continued to push us to study and prepare for the upcoming AP exam. I greatly admire and appreciate her perseverance as she's influenced me to put in the work outside of her class to help prepare myself. Additionally, she has always led her classes with a smile on her face, which has helped to make her class one that I look forward to all day. In the end, her genuine passion for the French language and culture has helped to shape me into the person I am today and has influenced me to continue learning the language after high school. I will no doubt miss seeing her every day after graduating, as she has made my days here so much easier and less stressful with the kindness and understanding she has shown me. Thank you.
Our next student, attending Miami University with a major in accounting, Michael Rose.
I would like to call up Mrs. Williams. I would be lying if I said that English is my favorite subject. Between reading works that were written before the founding of this country and being told I had to analyze every minorly significant detail, I had lost a lot of the love that I used to have for reading. Luckily, Mrs. Williams made sure I was never bored in her Honors English 10 class. From the moment that I walked in, I could tell that Mrs. Williams was one of the more interesting teachers I had had. Every day, Mrs. Williams made sure that we laughed, and she made sure that we got our work done. Mrs. Williams is one of the most straightforward yet fun-loving people that I know. She's not afraid to call out anyone on their faults, but she does this because she truly cares about her students. Even though I was not a huge fan of some of the literature that we read, I was still excited to go to her class every day, and I think that is a sign of an exceptional teacher. When students want to come to class, even though they don't like the subject, the teacher is doing something right. I was overjoyed to get to spend another year with Mrs. Williams the next year in College Composition 1 and 2. I had even more fun in these classes since we were able to choose the content of our essays. No matter what subject I wrote about, Mrs. Williams always gave honest and unbiased feedback. A diverse selection of opinions were written by my classmates for each essay, and Mrs. Williams made sure to be supportive, whether she agreed with the opinions or not. Even though I don't have class with Mrs. Williams this year, I still smile every time I see her in the hallway. Now that she no longer teaches me, I realize what a blessing it was to have this amazing person in my life. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, for keeping me awake in English class and being one of the best parts of my day.
So particularly good job by Michael, considering that he got in at 5:15 this morning from Nationals for DECA on a red eye last night. I swear every year the print gets a little bit smaller. It does. Our next student, attending The Ohio State University with a major in computer science and engineering, Rahul Sangvi.
Before I call up my nomination, I'd like to thank my parents, my educators for your unwavering support the last 4 years. Unfortunately, he cannot be here today, but my nomination is Mr. Black. An educator is not limited to the role of a teacher, nor confined within the walls of a classroom. An educator imparts valuable life skills and lessons. While I have never had Mr. Black in class, I've had the privilege of being coached by him in tennis for the past 2 years. Tennis, is as much of a mental game as it is a physical one. It's a battle against oneself where mastering your mindset is crucial for success. Coach Black has taught me to respond rather than react on the court, emphasizing that one's attitude, concentration, and effort are within one's control. Beyond coaching, I've also worked with him in his summer clinic. In these various capacities, Coach Black has been a pivotal role model, allowing me to thrive both on the court and in life. Thank you.
And of course, the reason Mr. Black isn't here is the same reason why this young man is wearing his tennis gear. There's a tennis match going on. Him and Carter had to rush back here to make it in time. Our next student, attending Miami University, majoring in business, analytics, and marketing, Caitlin Sanek.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I would also like to recognize Mrs. McGrath. And while she's coming up here, I'm sorry my speech is a little long, but that's good. Going back to the end of sophomore year, there came a time where every teacher became salespeople, trying to market their class to the students so that they would put it on their schedule. I had a pretty solid idea of what I wanted to take junior year until one random day when I was sitting in my honors chem class. A woman came in very peppy and energetic, eager to tell us about this class called AP Physics. This class never crossed my mind, but it slowly made its way as she told us that there would be group tests, take-home tests, and many fun labs. This woman happened to be Mrs. McGrath, and due to her good marketing skills, I decided to take AP Physics. First day of junior year, I'm very excited to take this class with a fun teacher, when to my surprise, she informs us that it will actually be very difficult and has the lowest passing rate out of all the APs nationally. My initial reaction was to drop it, but I pushed through because I didn't believe that it could be that bad. Well, let me tell you, AP Physics was single-handedly the most challenging class I've ever taken, even compared to math like multivariable calculus, and I truly would not have been able to get through this year without her. As the year started, I could immediately notice Mrs. McGrath's dedication to her students. She would provide numerous materials, including videos, additional homework, extra credit labs, and one-on-one time just to help her students. There were multiple occasions where if I had my hand raised, no matter the circumstance, she would come over to answer my question. She was also very good at catering to specific learning styles, whether it was being hands-on or writing notes. She always provided something for everyone. Not only was she very dedicated to her students, but she constantly validated us and provided motivation to pass the AP exam. I remember one specific moment at the end of the year where we had individual meetings, and she pointed out the fact that I was doing additional work than necessary to succeed on the AP exam. In that moment, it felt good to be recognized, especially with the common misconception that everything comes naturally to people enrolled in harder classes. Not only academically, but Mrs. McGrath gave me a lot of personal advice throughout my time at the high school and was always there for me whether I was crying over a physics problem or crying over a boy. Mrs. McGrath has been such an inspiration to me, and I'm so glad I decided to take AP Physics during my sophomore year. I can't thank her enough for everything.
Our next student is attending Bellarmine University with a major in biology pre-med, Bryn Severance.
The educator that I'd like to recognize tonight is Mrs. Dodash. To Mrs. Dodash, I wanted to reach out and send you this long overdue thank you. Reflecting on my 12 years here at Strongsville, as a student, I would not be where I am today without the fundamental years of elementary school with fantastic teachers such as yourself. Although second grade was 10 years ago now at this point, I still remember how much you impacted my life as a young and impressionable student. I remember the environment you created in your classroom, and it was the first year that I really began to love coming to school each and every day. You sparked my love for reading and learning about new things. You helped me become more invested into comprehending the things I was learning about. You taught me the importance of writing. You made me feel confident to ask questions and participate in class. Through your second grade class, you provided me with so many necessary skills to become the student I am today, and I am forever grateful for that. I remember doing book reports in your classroom and talking about all the things that I read about and what they could mean at a deeper level. I believe that you set me on the path to achieve throughout my education to the highest level, and I'm beyond grateful and excited to finally share how much your teaching has influenced me. Even when my brother was in the second grade, you sent your love and support through letters in the mail that made me feel so supported. I'm so very glad to have been one of your students over the years, and I want to thank you for all you have done for me and so many others throughout your career. I'm forever grateful for everything. Thank you so much.
As each one of these students come up here and start walking away, I think there's so many memories that kind of flood back. Like I told Bren, I still remember that my first year during the craziness that was called the pandemic and the state championship soccer team she was on, and that celebration. Tonight is such a small story of how much is really going on with each one of these students. The next student is attending the University of Miami with a major in chemistry, Kay Smith.
I would like to invite up Miss Sands, my influential teacher. I was lucky enough to have Miss Sands as my teacher for 3 years of my high school career. From Zoom classes to college stress, her class was a bright point in my day. It is easy to be someone's favorite teacher when they teach a favorite subject, but Miss Sands had an ability to make me feel seen apart from school or my Spanish vocabulary, which was mediocre at best. She is the most understanding teacher that I've had. She meets her students where they are and did everything she could to instill confidence in me both in and out of the classroom. Any praise I received from Miss Sands felt earned. It was never contingent upon GPA or a test grade, which was new to me. She saw me as a person and not just as a student. Miss Sands treated me with grace and kindness when I was a freshman in the corner of the classroom. To my junior year, my friends and I were the loudest in the class. I hope that every student is able to find a space in school just as I found in Miss Sands' class. For me, my Spanish teacher was a teacher and friend in one. So, Miss Sands, from laughing at my lame attempts at humor to cheering me up after particularly brutal math and physics tests, thank you.
Our next student, attending the University of Cincinnati with a major in Business Analytics and Information Systems, Misha Tammer.
I would like to recognize Mr. Sperling. Throughout my 4 years at Strongsville City Schools, I have met and learned from many remarkable educators. However, during my senior year, I was given the wonderful opportunity to be taught by Mr. Sperling. Despite it being his first year of teaching, Mr. Sperling has had a great impact on not just me, but all of his students. I had AP Computer Science A with him during first period. Not many seniors want to wake up early and go to class at 7:20 in the morning, especially at the end of the school year. But Mr. Sperling knew how to make class interesting and enjoyable. He has shared his passion with coding with all of his students and has always been willing to offer help and guidance with coding assignments, test corrections, which I definitely took advantage of, and much more. Thank you, Mr. Sperling, for everything you have taught me this year and being a wonderful teacher.
It's a very rare honor for our first-year teacher, Mr. Sperling. Congratulations. Our next student, attending Miami University with a major in Business Analytics, Dean Upholzer.
Hello, the teacher that I would like to honor today would be Mrs. Myers. The way in which Mrs. Myers taught me kept me engaged into the learning process. She has a great understanding of the different learning styles of her students, which help me excel in her class. Unlike most sports, golf tournaments are played during the day, causing me to miss a lot of school. This goes beyond the high school season, but also when I am participating in several individual tournaments throughout the year. Mrs. Myers would never get frustrated with this. She never asked what my backup plan was. She understood the importance of golf in my life and was always very supportive. Her support and confidence in me as a student helped me reach my academic goals while I pursue my goals outside of the classroom as well. Again, thank you, Mrs. Myers.
If I had known you could miss class to play golf, I would have joined the golf team in high school for sure. Our next student, attending the University of Akron with a major in computer engineering, Saiprabha Valala.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize Mr. Scott for this award. Mr. Scott, For the past 2 years, I've been fortunate to have learned math from you. Through your unique sense of humor and passion for the subject and for teaching, I was quickly pulled into your lectures. Your attention to detail on topics and in-depth explanations make learning math interesting and gratifying. But I think I've learned much more than just math in your classroom. I think the most important thing I learned from you is through your perspective on life. Somehow, through just a math lesson every day, you demonstrated the power of not taking life too seriously and just staying in the moment. You helped shape who I am today, both in and outside the classroom. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
So our last but not least student, who I can definitively say is up here because of the genetics from her mother, attending Baldwin Wallace in a major in actuarial science, Olivia Wingler.
Before I start, I'd like to give a thank you to all of the teachers I've had at Strongsville High School and at Strongsville City Schools. You're all very amazing. And the person I'd like to recognize tonight is my dad, Mr. Winkler. Usually when people think of their high school experience, the first few things that come to mind are their friends, football games, the sports they participated in, and sometimes their favorite classes. Not many students get the privilege, or I guess really any, of having one of the most important people of their lives there every single day, their dad. The question I've received the most over my past 4 years has been, what's it like having your dad as the principal? My answer used to be long, but it shortened up to, it's actually pretty great. What most people don't quite understand about my dad being my principal is that he's so much more than just a principal to me. When given the prompts, choose the most influential staff member in Strongsville to honor, it seems almost trivial to pick the man who has watched me develop as a person and has pushed me to be the person I am and will become. Not only did I get to spend my high school years with my father, I was lucky enough to experience it with an amazing person, teacher, mentor, friend, and administrator. My dad is so much more than just the principal, so when asked to pick the most influential teacher in my life, my dad's the first person who came to mind. Nobody's done a better job at being able to call me out when I'm wrong and teach me how to do better. He inspires me every day on how to work harder in all aspects of life. He taught me how to push myself physically and mentally and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, as I heard a lot doing sports. He taught me how to set goals and work hard to achieve them, and he taught me how to be a leader and to lead by example, not to be a follower. He has developed me into the girl I am here today and the woman I will become. And I wish every student could know him the way that I do. And I firmly believe he will teach and guide so many students into becoming amazing people for years to come. Thank you, Dad.
So I've been kind of old-fashioned. I've been telling Olivia for years. Olivia, when she gets a little frustrated, sometimes gets a little teary. And I feel like she picked me as a revenge to see if she could make me get teary. And she's very close, so I'm going to try to wrap this up without, like, vindicating for her. So she could tell me, don't cry. Because I used to tell her that when she was little, because she was a very, very hard worker, and her mother and I are really proud of her. Strongsville High School really is, I've said this this is my, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th awards. There are so many of them, they run together. Strongsville High School really is an amazing place, not just to work. I literally have family here, but it's like a family, even when Olivia this will be my last Wingler to leave. Sydney left 2 years ago. It'll still be like family to me. And, you know, the verbs you heard tonight were not conjugating and spelling, and what you heard was caring. Makes me laugh. You had 2 students who came up tonight who didn't even have those teachers. They provided that type of guidance through extracurriculars. We had teachers come up here, some of which they haven't had since 2nd grade. That's a long time to impact a child's life. And that's every year. The amazing part about this particular night is the wonderful things that have been said and what was actually said, which is that they made me feel empowered. So, you know, I'm a numbers nerd. I love data. My actuarial science daughter and I, speak that same language. Strongsville High School has really been amazing since well before I got here. But the last 4 or 5 years, if you look at like those U.S. News reports, we're moving on up. We moved from top 2,000 to top 1,200. And I want to thank some people, because that isn't because of me, it isn't because of Dr. Ryba, it isn't because of it's because of everybody in this room and the family structure I'm speaking about. But I think special thank you has to be given to, since I've worked here, I've really enjoyed working with the gentleman who helped me tonight hand out these awards, and that is our superintendent, Dr. Ryba. I'd also like to thank Mr. Sean Collins, one of our assistant principals, who is also a dynamic thinker and helps me every day with the things that we do here. So Sean, stand up, please. Sean even had a speech on standby in case I couldn't keep it together. I'd also like for everybody, I say this at every award ceremony and it's true. I try not to watch too much of the news. I try not to go on social media because it's really easy to dig deep into a dive of negativity if you do those things. If you watch the news tonight, I guarantee you there were things about students across the country and it was not positive stories. And I often feel like that's not a representation of what I see every day in this building. I say the same thing about teachers. If a teacher does something wrong, and it happens like any other profession, it is blared on the news across the country, and you'll hear it until you just don't want to hear it. But the truth is, I work with about 125 of the most amazing teachers I've ever worked with in my career. I'd like us all to give our teaching staff a round of applause. I've gotten to know many of you over the years. Some of you as far back as 2nd, 3rd grade, some of because I have all daughters, so I coached the girls in rec basketball way back in the day. Some of you I've gotten to know from sitting next to you at Academic Challenge or sporting events. And I can tell you, these children who are here are amazing, but they're amazing because of the home support that you have given them. So can we give the parents a round of applause, please? So as I wrap up, I have to tell you, every principal says this, and it's probably always true. This is my first 4-year class at the high school. Let me delay for a second. I'll just finish with, for obvious reasons, this is a very special class. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. And hopefully I won't do this at commencement. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight, and we'll see all of you very soon. Picture of that.